Okay. Well, that one was almost 11 minutes, but it loaded very, very quickly. Um, uh, but I didn't really pay attention to it. I went to go do the chores I was talking about. I went to go move stuff around in the rec hall and cleaned out some things. And I'll move some more stuff around tomorrow. And then so we'll have it to where any stuff that might have a aerosol or a chemical can or something like that, not in the rec hall and in the studio that has a climate control. So we have a climate control in the studio where we have air conditioning coming through, and like at a store, and in the rec hall we don't have that. We can have fans blowing through it, and I got a cooler, a small cooler, but it's not that big. So it's not big enough for. It's just a place where you can sit in front and go, oh, "This is cool. All right, feels good." It's not going to cool off the whole place. Right? It's a small air conditioning unit. So we got that taken care of, and that thing loaded quickly. And just constantly have to remind myself, yeah, whenever I'm feeling or thinking about things and feeling people being abused because people are being denied the Lord's Prayer, that's the perfection. That's our salvation from sin and focus. And DT Suzuki, you eat, drink, sleep, since the focus is on you and you are the 1322nd Redeemer of Islamic prophecy, you. I've talked to people, they don't know what I'm talking about. It was in the Quran for Dummies. And just talks about how he's the spirit of Adam, Moses, David, Jesus, John, discussed in, the book of Luke, the book of Matthew, and things like that. And that he's the guy. He looks like Son of Man. He looks like John, the portraits of John and the Saladin. I look like, I look like the people that were faithful and righteous before me. We physically resemble each other. We act similar. We share the same faith because faith does not waver and faith is perfect. I had trouble dealing with it at times because of all the corruption. And, but I'm in a more fortunate position. I can speak more freely than anybody ever has before because I don't have the situation where hypocrites, like what happened with Al Hassan, I'm the light, I'm the way, another faith, and they recant for 3 days and they beat him to death for saying he was like Jesus Christ. And they said they killed off the Mutazila that were the ones that were like Al Hassan, is what I was told. And I said, no, they didn't die off. You don't kill off people. Life's eternal, grace is infinite. You merely attempt to try to silence the truth with lie, which is clinically insane. And that's what we have going on right now. And the technology is working rapidly. I think both the Chinese and the United States are trying to use the linguistics of their government to target one another with their hypocrisy for genocidal operations to be more ripe. And, the Chinese, hey, if they're going to kill you, they're going to kill you, right? That's just the way they are. You can only have one child and that's it. And if you disobey, you're in trouble, Where the Americans fancy themselves, more, they have, the Chinese are more fascist and the Americans are more anarchist. But both fancy themselves more civilized than the other, when neither one is civilized because neither group has people that they perceive as falsely as leadership that's sharing truthfulness and faithfulness and love and kindness and courage with the people. All right, so the focal point, it says in all the documentation, even in Shinto religion and Buddhist and Hindu, is the focal point of truthful understanding and faithful love and living is the Christ, the living Christ. And the living Christ is the one who will stand for the perfection of Jesus Christ without fear during the worst time in the history of the world. And that time is now, because we have mass communications and we're still mass murdering and acting like the Lord's Prayer does not exist. And so this by far is the worst time in the history of the world, because during the Holocaust, during World War II, and the Boxer Rebellion, they didn't have the capacity to share the truth of the Christ worldwide. Or they didn't have this. It wasn't tangible. As you read the book of Revelation, you hear about all these miracles about how you can redeem the Messiah Jesus with one living man who looks like him, and the whole world can know and understand overnight. So this is the worst time in the history of the world. I first started posting on YouTube in June of 2009, guys. It is April of 2025. And corporations are still talking people into mass murdering over money and using the technology to do that, as opposed to share the Lord's Prayer and deliver people from evil and, deliver us and salvation and beauty and stuff. So this by far, there can't be a worse time in the history of the world than this. And I know a lot of you will sit there and say, "Oh, but the Holocaust was horrible." Yes, it was. But the Holocaust, if Anne Frank had a Facebook, if Anne Frank had a YouTube, don't you think the people in the United States of America would have been radically different than they were during that time? Would Avery Brundage been able to get away with being a financial supporter of Joseph Goebbels and Adolf Hitler? Right? Do you understand? Okay. If Oscar Schindler had a YouTube or a Facebook or a Twitter, okay, do you understand? Okay. If Haile Selassie had a YouTube or a Twitter or a Facebook, Judith Krishnamurti was not made public to the world. Okay? They did not show that speech. They didn't have Walter Cronkite saying, "Tonight from the United Nations, Judith Krishnamurti, the one the Indians and the British have now confirmed, believed to be the man most like the Krishna and the Buddha, is going to address the people of the world about living world peace in an intelligent, rational fashion." It didn't happen, right? We got the Edmund Fitzgerald on the news. We got a date that will live in infamy on the news, but we didn't get, this is Judith Krishnamurti. This is the man that fulfills Indian prophecy that a lot of Chinese people profess to believe in also, on the man that they believe is the eternal light on faithful peace, right? The understanding, the humble understanding of faithful peace. Right, so, okay, guys, early bird, state your case, make you move before it's too late, having a real showdown, right? Sweet love, that look on my face is sorrow, don't let that one little mistake make us part. Sweet love, place that memory behind you. I had a conversation with Patrick Peterson on Facebook, yeah. He was very angry. He got abused by the corporations that limit what you can say on music, and yeah, he was very upset. And I showed empathy. I said, "I understand. I'm sorry for you. I really enjoyed. All I ever got was your first album, but I really did appreciate it and enjoy the content. I thought it was very thought provoking and very well thought out and very, empathetic and understanding. I especially liked, Now Conversation, I'm No Rebel, and Desperately was a very good song too. But guys, when you rely on people with money for the needs of your existence, you're going to be a very angry person. Okay? I'm no rebel. I'm just an ordinary man. I can't say that. I'm not an ordinary man. Okay? I'm not just go to my job, collect my pay, believe I'm gliding down the highway when in fact I'm sliding away. No. I am the living embodiment of the Lord's Prayer. I am the man whose life is outlined and detailed, and a lot of it is already explained before he was born in the book of Revelation. So I'm not just an ordinary man. And I have to understand that, accept that, and explain that. And what the business people of the world do with this what I'm sharing with the world, do with this message and the life of this messenger, is entirely up to them business wise. But as far as living the Lord's Prayer, that's not up to them. That's up to me. And I am getting the technology to be like me and not like them. So you can join me and be like me and not like them. But when it all shifts, you're not going to be able to go back and change your answer. When a child is murdered crossing the border because you're engaging in conflict over money, you participated in that murder. If you're standing up for the Lord's Prayer with me, you are participating in saving of lives from that happening to young people, because we don't need borders manipulated by money and murder. We need the Lord's Prayer now. Okay, guys? I love you very much. We'll most likely talk tomorrow.